This tutorial will demonstrate how to remove and install chainrings. Since there are so many different crank and chainring sizing combinations, I'll stick to the basics and give a general overview based on a 5-star 3 chainring system. For this job, you'll typically need a 5mm Allen key, a chainring nut wrench, and some waterproof grease. On some bikes, you may find it easier to remove the right crank arm before you begin. Before removing the largest chainrings, you'll often have to remove the smallest one, which is threaded directly into your crank arm. Use your Allen key to loosen all of the bolts that hold the chainring in place. And then use a marker to make note of the chainring's position in relation to the crank before removing it completely. Some chainrings have a bump sticking out that should be lined up with your crank arm. The largest 2 rings are usually bolted to each other with a nut and a bolt. Here you'll need to hold the nut in place with the special chainring wrench while you loosen the bolt with your Allen key. Once again, it's a good idea to mark the chainring's position in relation to your crank arm. The 2 largest outer rings often have a few spacers or washers in between, so be sure to note exactly how they came apart so that they can be reinstalled correctly. While it's okay to install a new chainring that has a different number of teeth, you'll want to make sure that your new chainrings have the same side profile as your old ones. Before you reinstall the bolts, apply a thin layer of grease to the threads to keep out moisture. Now you can reassemble all of your chainrings the same way they came apart. Make sure all of the bolts are finger tight and then begin tightening them evenly in a star pattern. Start by tightening the first bolt and then every second bolt until you've gone all the way around. Repeat this process until all of the bolts are tight. Be careful not to over-tighten. Park Tools recommends 44 to 88 inch-pounds of torque for aluminum bolts and 70 to 95 inch-pounds for steel bolts.